Welcome to Relation Tales. Please like this video and subscribe Relation Tales. We're grateful for each and every one of you. Let us know where in the world you're tuning in from. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Let's begin. Marcus Hale was 34, a man who worked with his hands and his back more than his voice. He ran a small carpentry business, leaving before sunrise most days and dragging himself home long after dark. Still, he carried pride in every plank he laid, every table he built. That pride had always been anchored by one thing: his wife, Clara. Clara was 32, elegant without trying, the kind of woman who could make a room brighter just by walking through it. Or at least, that's how Marcus used to see her. Lately, the glow seemed to fade the moment she stepped inside their home. At dinner, Marcus noticed her gaze drifting more to the phone by her plate than to him. He tried filling the silence with stories from his day: clients who argued over walnut versus oak, apprentices who messed up measurements. But her responses came clipped, distracted. She laughed, but not at his jokes. She smiled, but never at him. One Friday night, Marcus had planned something simple but meaningful. He grilled steaks in the backyard, poured her favorite red wine, even set out the candles Clara used to love. When she finally came out, she wore a new dress he'd never seen before, silky, form-fitting, far more glamorous than a dinner for two at home. "Wow," Marcus said, trying to sound playful. "Who's all this for?" "Just me." Clara's laugh was too sharp, too practiced. "Don't be silly. I just felt like dressing up. You should be happy I made an effort." But as she twirled the stem of her wine glass, Marcus caught it, the faint perfume in the air. Not the kind she wore for him. Something new. Something meant for someone else. That night, lying in bed, Marcus reached for her. She shifted away, muttering, "I'm tired." The words cut deeper than a blade. Because it wasn't just fatigue, it was avoidance. And Marcus knew it. The next morning, Clara announced she was going shopping with friends. She slipped into the same dress from the night before, added that unfamiliar perfume, and grabbed her keys without meeting his eyes. "Don't wait up," she said casually. Marcus stood in the doorway long after she left, his fists clenched. He wasn't a man who jumped to conclusions, but his gut told him this wasn't about friends. This was about lies. He paced the living room, his mind a storm. Memories of their early years, their first apartment with peeling wallpaper, the nights they stayed up dreaming about the life they'd build, clashed with the cold, distant woman she had become. Marcus wanted answers. He wanted the truth, no matter how ugly it was. But more than anything, he wanted Clara to understand the weight of what she was breaking. Because once he uncovered the full extent of her betrayal, he knew one thing: he wouldn't simply confront her. He would make her pay in a way she'd never forget. Marcus didn't sleep that night. His body lay still, but his mind was restless, spinning with images of Clara's distant smile and the way she clutched her phone like it was a lifeline to another world. Every instinct told him something was wrong, something he could no longer ignore. The following days only confirmed it. Clara became more meticulous about her routines. She locked her phone with a new password. She lingered in front of the mirror longer than usual, smoothing her auburn hair, painting her lips carefully, even on days she claimed she was meeting friends for coffee. Marcus noticed how she returned home with a faint glow in her cheeks, a different energy that never once appeared when she was with him. She laughed more freely into her phone than she ever did across the dinner table. For years, Marcus had believed in trust, unshakable, unconditional trust. But now, trust had become a weapon she wielded against him, expecting him to stay blind while she played a dangerous game. One Wednesday afternoon, Marcus cut his workday short. He told his apprentice he wasn't feeling well and drove home early. Parking his truck a few houses away, he walked quietly through the back gate and waited. It didn't take long. Clara appeared in the driveway, not in her casual clothes as she'd told him earlier, but in a tight blouse and heels. A sleek car pulled up, and a man stepped out, leaning down to kiss her cheek as though he had done it many times before. Marcus's chest tightened, but he stayed hidden, his fists pressed to his sides until his knuckles ached. He didn't rush forward. He didn't shout. Not yet. He forced himself to watch, to absorb every detail. When the car drove away with Clara in the passenger seat, Marcus returned inside the house. He walked through each room, scanning the furniture they had chosen together, the photographs lining the shelves, wedding smiles, vacations, anniversaries. Every frame now looked like a life frozen in time. That night, when Clara returned home, Marcus sat at the table waiting. She glanced at him, startled, before putting on her well-rehearsed smile. "You're home early?" she asked. "Yeah," Marcus replied calmly, his voice a careful mask. "Didn't feel great, so I came back." Clara nodded quickly, too quickly, and busied herself with pouring a glass of water. "Well, I hope you're feeling better now." Marcus studied her. The way she avoided his eyes told him more than words ever could. He wanted to confront her, to throw the truth onto the table and watch her scramble. But he didn't. Not yet. He realized something in that moment. Anger would only give her control. Patience would give it to him. Over the next week, Marcus quietly collected pieces of her betrayal. He followed her when she claimed to be at brunch with friends. He noted the restaurants, the quiet motels, the man she laughed with as though her husband didn't exist. He paid attention to details, license plates, receipts she left crumpled in her purse, even the way she hummed different tunes after these secret outings. It was a torture that aided him daily, but it also gave him clarity. This wasn't a one-time mistake. It wasn't weakness. It was deliberate, repeated, and heartless. Clara had chosen this path again and again. At night, Marcus would lie beside her, her body just inches away but worlds apart. He thought about the years he sacrificed, the hours of work, the dreams he placed on hold to provide for her. And now, the same woman who once promised forever had turned his loyalty into her playground. One evening, as Clara prepared to leave for another supposed girls' night, Marcus caught her wrist gently. "You've been busy lately," he said softly. Clara froze, then forced a laugh. "What do you mean?" Marcus leaned closer, searching her eyes. "Just feels like you're always somewhere else. Like you're not here anymore." Her smile faltered, just for a second, before she turned away. "You're imagining things, Marcus. Don't start being paranoid." He let go of her wrist, his lips curving into a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Maybe you're right." She left, her heels clicking down the walkway, while Marcus stood in the silence of their home, his decision solidifying. He wasn't going to expose her lies in a heated argument. No, Clara was too slippery for that. She'd deny, twist, manipulate. Instead, he would build something so undeniable, so inescapable, that she'd have nowhere to hide. Marcus began planning, methodically, quietly. He tightened his circle, stopped confiding in friends, stopped hinting at suspicions. To Clara, he was still the quiet, hard-working husband, slightly tired but harmless. To himself, he was a man sharpening the blade of patience, waiting for the perfect moment. Because Marcus knew one truth more than any other, the deeper Clara believed her secret was safe, the harder her world would shatter when he pulled it all out from under her. And Marcus wasn't interested in a small confrontation. He was preparing for something much bigger, something final. Marcus had always been a patient man. Carpentry taught him that rushing ruined everything. Measure wrong, cut too soon, and the whole piece collapsed. Now, he applied the same discipline to his crumbling marriage. Clara thought she was outsmarting him, but Marcus was quietly laying the foundation for something she would never forget. The first step was observation. He became her shadow without her knowing it. On nights she claimed she was at a friend's house, Marcus parked a block away from the restaurant or hotel she slipped into. He never confronted her, never even let her sense his presence. Instead, he collected evidence, timestamps, photos, details she couldn't explain away. Every image was a nail, every lie another plank in the coffin of her deception. The second step was subtle distance. Marcus stopped reaching for her, stopped asking questions, stopped offering affection. He became calm, polite, even indifferent. Clara mistook it for weakness. She grew bolder, careless. She smiled at texts in front of him, locked the bathroom door while she whispered into her phone, returned home humming like she had lived an entirely different life. One evening, Marcus invited Clara out to dinner at a cozy Italian place they once loved. She looked surprised but agreed. Over candlelight, he studied her while she scrolled through her phone under the table. "Remember when we used to come here all the time?" Marcus asked, his voice gentle. Clara forced a smile. "Yeah, those were fun days." "Were," Marcus repeated softly. "You sound like they're gone." She laughed lightly, dismissing the weight of his words. Don't be so dramatic. People change. Marcus leaned back, nodding slowly. They do. He didn't argue. He didn't accuse. He let her believe he was slipping into acceptance, when in reality, he was documenting every sign of her growing carelessness. The third step was building alliances. Marcus reached out to Clara's closest friends, carefully asking small questions, pretending to be concerned about her well-being. She seems distant lately, he would say. I just want to make sure she's okay. Most friends brushed it off, but a few admitted they hadn't seen much of Clara in weeks. The cracks in her stories widened. Then Marcus went further. He visited a lawyer, not because he was ready to end the marriage yet, but because he wanted to understand every angle. Assets, accounts, the house, the business he had built from the ground up. He learned how infidelity changed everything legally, how proof mattered, and how timing was everything. The lawyer's advice was simple. If you want to make a move, don't confront her without a plan. Build your case, then strike when she has no escape. Marcus walked out of that office with clarity. He wasn't just a betrayed husband anymore. He was a strategist. At home, Clara remained oblivious. One night she returned late, slipping off her heels in the foyer. Marcus was sitting on the couch, a book open in his hands. "You're still up?" she asked, startled. "Couldn't sleep," he replied casually. "How was your night?" She blinked, hesitated just a fraction too long, then smiled. "Fine. Just drinks with Melissa." Marcus nodded. "Good. I'm glad you had fun." His tone was calm, even kind, but inside fire burned. He could still smell the faint cologne that clung to her clothes, one that wasn't his. Over the following weeks, Marcus refined his plan. He kept working long hours, or so Clara thought. In reality, he was preparing, gathering financial documents, moving some accounts into safe places, making sure that when the time came, Clara would lose the comfort she took for granted. He even found himself watching her differently. At family gatherings, she put on the perfect wife act, laughing at jokes, holding his hand, leaning against him like nothing was wrong. But Marcus noticed the small tells, the way her eyes scanned her phone when she thought no one was watching, the restless tapping of her nails when a text buzzed. One Saturday afternoon, Marcus suggested a spontaneous drive. "Let's get out of town for the day," he said warmly. Clara hesitated, but agreed. On the way, she kept checking her phone, her frustration growing when messages went unanswered. Marcus glanced at her, his lips curving into a faint smile. "You seem distracted." "I'm fine," she snapped quickly. "Just tired." "Of course," Marcus said smoothly. "I get it." By the end of that weekend, Marcus knew he had everything he needed. He had the evidence, the legal advice, the financial security. What he didn't have was the right moment to reveal it. That moment, he decided, had to be unforgettable. He pictured it clearly. Clara standing in shock, her lies crumbling, her world collapsing as she realized she had lost everything. Not through yelling, not through violence, but through cold, undeniable truth. Marcus had always believed revenge wasn't about anger. It was about control, and he was ready to take every ounce of control back. As Clara laughed on the phone one evening, walking past him without noticing the icy calm in his eyes, Marcus whispered under his breath, "Enjoy it while you can." Because soon, very soon, the game she thought she was winning would be ripped out of her hands. And Marcus Hale would be the one holding the final move. The night Marcus had been waiting for arrived without warning. Clara came home later than usual, her hair slightly messy, her perfume stronger than ever. She set her purse on the counter and stretched, forcing a smile. "You're still up?" she asked lightly. Marcus sat at the dining table, papers spread neatly in front of him. His eyes lifted to hers, calm, steady, unreadable. "Yeah, I was waiting." Something in his tone made Clara freeze. She laughed nervously and reached for a glass of water. "Well, don't look so serious. You're making me nervous." Marcus didn't flinch. He picked up a folder and slid it across the table toward her. "Maybe you should be." Clara blinked, confused. Slowly, she opened it. Inside were photographs, clear, undeniable images of her stepping out of cars, entering hotel lobbies, embracing men Marcus had never met. Receipts, timestamps, even text transcripts sat neatly in order. Her face drained of color. "Marcus," her voice cracked. "This isn't what it looks like." Don't insult me. Marcus cut in sharply, his calmness sharper than any yell could ever be. I gave you trust. You gave me lies. Again, and again, and again. She dropped the folder as though it burned her fingers. Please listen. I was lonely. You were always working. I was working for us. Marcus snapped, his patience cracking for the first time. His voice thundered through the house. Every nail I hammered, every board I cut, every extra shift, I did it so we could have this life. And you threw it away for what? Cheap thrills? Empty secrets? Clara's eyes filled with tears. She reached across the table. I made mistakes, but we can fix this. Marcus pulled his hand back. His voice dropped lower, colder. No, Clara, you don't get to decide that anymore. I do. She stared at him, trembling. What are you saying? Marcus leaned forward, his eyes locking on hers. I went to a lawyer. Everything is set. The house, the accounts, even the business, protected. You think you've been clever, sneaking around, living two lives. But every step you took, I was watching. Every lie you told, I wrote down. And now, it all collapses on you. Clara's breath hitched. You're divorcing me? I'm freeing myself. Marcus corrected, his voice steady, deliberate. And I'm making sure you don't walk away rewarded for betraying me. You wanted excitement. You wanted freedom? Congratulations. You'll have plenty of both, without a dime of what we built together. Her tears spilled over, panic spreading across her face. Marcus, please. You can't do this. Think of everything we've shared. Everything we shared died the moment you let another man walk into our life. Marcus said. The woman I married is gone. What's left is someone I don't even recognize. Clara sank into a chair, her hands trembling as she clutched the papers. I'll change. I'll stop. You won't. Marcus interrupted. Because this isn't about one mistake. It's about choices. And you made yours. The silence that followed was suffocating. Clara sobbed quietly, but Marcus's expression remained carved from stone. Years of love, trust, and sacrifice had been replaced with a bitter clarity. He wasn't doing this to hurt her. He was doing it to finally reclaim himself. The next days unfolded like storm. Papers were signed. Friends and family, once blind to Clara's deception, were shown the truth in undeniable detail. Whispers spread through the small town, not because Marcus shouted, but because Clara's own actions shouted louder than he ever could. She moved out with nothing but a few boxes. Her eyes, once filled with fire, now carried only regret. Marcus didn't gloat. He didn't mock. He simply watched her go, his heart heavy but resolute. One evening, as he sat on the porch of the home that was now solely his, Marcus allowed himself a long, steady breath. The hurt was still there. It would always be there. But alongside it came something else. Peace. His phone buzzed with a message from an old friend, inviting him to join a weekend fishing trip. Something simple, something free of deceit. Marcus smiled faintly. For the first time in months, he felt like he was moving forward, no longer trapped in Clara's lies. Revenge hadn't been about destroying her. It had been about saving himself. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, Marcus realized he had won back the one thing Clara could never steal from him again, his freedom.